भारत एक ऐसा एक ही देश है that actually has a ocean named after it. तो मैंने एक ऐसे ही आइडिया दिया कि क्यों ना हम लोग गुप्त काल का एक जहाज बनाएं उस समय के टेक्नोलॉजी से।
One of India's sharpest economists, Sanjeev Sanyal.
Whatever our internal differences may be, when we are dealing with the world, we have to be on the same side.
Ruled over India for the last 300 years or so, wrote history from their perspective.
The person who got into a ship and sailed off to Indonesia and spread our culture and trade and other things, he was also a risk taker.
तो क्या हम ऑलवेज एज अ सिविलाइजेशन रिस्क टेकर्स थे?
अभी हम लोग 7% जीडीपी ग्रोथ अभी हमारा नॉर्मलाइज्ड हो गया है. सो ऑल ऑफ दिस इज पॉलिसी रिस्क टेकिंग एंड इट इज ओनली पॉसिबल बिकॉज यू हैव अ पॉलिटिकल लीडरशिप इज विलिंग टू टेक दोज रिस्क. करंट जो प्रधानमंत्री हैं नरेंद्र मोदी जी, वो हैं एक कोस्टल स्टेट से, गुजरात से. तो इसीलिए शायद हो सकता है कि एक जो कोस्टल माइंडसेट जो है, एक मैरिटाइम माइंडसेट जो है, वो धीरे धीरे हमारे policies में दिख रही होंगी. He recognizes that failure is a part of risk taking. So if you remember when you had the failed missions as well, he was right there. That is also true if you remember when we lost in some sports events.
Absolutely.
You will see that he still phones up
Yes.
and congratulates the team even when they lose in the finals of something.
Absolutely.
So it is something, it shows, it requires a certain leadership.
I want to touch upon your latest book, Revolutionaries and the Forgotten Heroes. उसको लिखने के पीछे क्या सोच थी?
You will hear maybe Bhagat Singh in passing two lines, Netaji passing two lines. They are not the central characters. They are almost mentioned as if they were not a part of the story. To put the other history there so that next generation has some perspective of what happened, because there are still people alive who were witness to what happened. So I'm against this whole thing, life set ho gaya. So I would say the first thing is done is change this attitude that we can do it, and that attempting to do it means that sometimes you will fail.
आपसे मैं एक ओपिनियन चाहता हूँ. भारत को कैसी बैटिंग करनी चाहिए? नहीं, मैं क्रिकेट की बात नहीं कर रहा. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट इंडिया एज अ नेशन. हाउ शुड इंडिया बैट? आज के जो हमारे गेस्ट हैं वो कहते हैं कि इंडिया को खुल के बैटिंग करनी चाहिए, रिस्क लेने चाहिए. अच्छा, इन्होंने अपने करियर में भी बड़े कमाल के रिस्क लिए. ये ऑक्सफोर्ड स्कॉलर हैं, इकोनॉमिस्ट हैं, ट्रैवलर हैं, एंड करेंटली इज द मेंबर ऑफ पीएम्स इकोनॉमिक एडवाइजरी काउंसिल. इट्स एन ऑनर टू हैव संजीव सान्याल on the GDP podcast. संजीव, वेलकम टू द जीडीपी पॉडकास्ट.
Pleasure to be here.
अच्छा संजीव, आप एक बात कहते हो, आप ये कहते हो कि भारत का जो फ्यूचर है, इट डिपेंड्स ऑन रिस्क टेकर्स और नॉट स्पेक्टेटर्स. आप ऐसा क्यों कहते हो?
The reason is very simple, that all great civilizations, countries, nations, or even cricket teams have succeeded when they're out there playing on their front foot. Now, once in a while you may have to defend, but if your culture is to always keep defending, then you basically start out with a position that you can at best draw. Most of the time you will lose.
जी.
So I have long made the case that we as a civilization were a great civilization, precisely because our ancestors were great risk takers. But I have to be very clear what I mean by risk taking.
जी.
Risk taking means doing an activity where the outcome is uncertain. So you can when I say risk taking, it doesn't necessarily have to be climbing Everest or something like that, which is also a form of risk taking. But it could be setting up an enterprise, trying to becoming a sportsman, and trying to excel at in a global scale, doing scientific research. It could mean setting up a startup. It could even mean just starting a family.
Absolutely.
So point is, there has to be a capture of this idea that that life is led by essentially pushing the limits wherever it is that you wish to excel.
And you can't control everything. You need to let go certain things.
You cannot control everything, but that should not in any way stop you from attempting to do more things.
Absolutely.
So I'm against this whole thing, you know, कि life set हो गया. क्यों set हो गया भाई?
उसमें क्या मजा है?
उसमें क्या मजा है? लाइफ तभी देखिए लास्ट में जाके जो आदमी मर जाता है ना, वो अल्टीमेट सेटिंग है.
वो तो होना ही है.
हाँ, तो मेरे ख्याल से सेट तो होना ही है. तो बाकी जिंदगी क्यों नहीं जीते?
तो क्या हम ऑलवेज एज अ सिविलाइजेशन रिस्क टेकर्स थे? थोड़े आप एग्जांपल देके हमें बताएं कि हम कैसे थे, हाउ वर वी?
सो याद रखिए कि हमेशा हम लोग रिस्क टेकर थे और हर क्षेत्र में. The person who built Brihadeshwara temple, he was taking a risk. He was building what was at that time the largest structure in this part of the world. That's a huge risk.
Yeah, there might have been so many people who were doubted.
Yeah, the person who invented the zero,
That's true.
that also took a risk because a completely different way of thinking about mathematics.
Yeah.
The person who got into a ship and sailed off to Indonesia and spread our culture and trade and other things to those parts of the world, he was also a risk taker. You know, Chanakya and Chandragupta set up the greatest empire India has ever seen, the Mauryan Empire. They were also risk takers. So, point is, we have this great culture of risk taking, and yet, I suppose because we were colonized for so many hundreds of years, we came to fear risk taking. And instead of celebrating risk taking, we began to talk about and think of life set ho gaya as being the way to do things. Look, if life set ho gaya was the way of thinking, then we would not even be a free country. I mean, think about all the great revolutionaries who sacrificed their lives, went to Kala Pani, got hanged, etc. They were not trying to set their lives. So this is why I have this great sort of allergy to this national obsession with taking the UPSC exam.
क्योंकि उसके बाद लाइफ सेट हो जाता है.
हाँ, one way or the other, 99.9% of the case, we know. See, when you take the UPSC exam, you know exactly what the outcomes are.
जी.
For 99.9% of the case, we know they will fail.
Yeah.
For the 0.01% of the case, they will become bureaucrats. What is the risk taking in this whole thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Acha, another thing that you are very passionate about is our maritime history, and you link it with risk taking. तो उसके बारे में आप हमें बताएं.
तो अगर आप देखेंगे हमारे इतिहास को, तो हम जिस तरीके से इतिहास को हमारे टेक्स्ट बुक वगैरह में पढ़ाते हैं, आपको लगेगा कि हमारे इर्द गिर्द कोई समुद्र है ही नहीं, जबकि भारत एक ऐसा एक ही देश है that actually has a ocean named after it.
That's
Indian Ocean,
बिल्कुल.
हिंद महासागर.
जी.
और फिर भी हमारे जो इतिहास है, हमारा जो सोच है हमारा, वो पूरी तरह से लैंड लॉक्ड है. आपको मैं अगर पूछूंगा कि हमारे नेबरिंग कंट्रीज कौन है, तो आप शुरू करेंगे पाकिस्तान, चाइना, एटसेट्रा. लेकिन अगर आप इसको सामुद्रिक दृष्टिकोण से देखेंगे, तो हमारे नेबर्स अलग हैं.
बिल्कुल.
इंडोनेशिया, सिंगापुर, ओमान.
मैदान बड़ा हो जाता है.
मैदान बड़ा हो जाता है और अलग उसका इतिहास, उसके जो आर्थिक जो उसके जो इम्प्लीकेशंस हैं, वो पूरी तरह से अलग हैं. तो इसीलिए जो मैरीटाइम व्यू ऑफ द वर्ल्ड इज वेरी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम अ लैंडलॉक्ड वर्ल्ड व्यू. Unfortunately, for a country with an extraordinary coastline and an extraordinary maritime history, we have ended up with a landlocked worldview of ourselves.
तो इसमें आपने कोई चेंजेस देखे हैं लास्ट 10 years में?
मैं कहूँगा कि इसमें एक बदलाव तो आया है, और शायद इसका कारण यह है कि हमारे जो अभी करंट जो प्रधानमंत्री हैं नरेंद्र मोदी जी, वो हैं एक कोस्टल स्टेट से, गुजरात से. तो इसीलिए शायद हो सकता है कि एक जो कोस्टल माइंडसेट जो है, एक मैरीटाइम माइंडसेट जो है, वो धीरे धीरे हमारे पॉलिसीज में दिख रही होंगी. जैसे फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम वी आर इन्वेस्टिंग इन आवर नेवी.
दैट्स राइट.
हाँ, नेवी हमेशा हमारे जो वी आर 3 military services, Army, Air Force and Navy. The Navy was always the one that was in a sense the stepchild.
That's true.
But that has changed. We are seeing a lot of investments into the Navy. In fact, I believe in the next year or two, we will see a major new naval vessel or facility being opened every 40 days. So this is quite an amazing investment that's happening. We have this huge new program to encourage shipbuilding in this country.
That's right.
All our maritime laws, some of them going back to colonial period, have now been changed. We have got a 70,000 crore budget for ships and shipbuilding that has been put in place. We have given ships and shipbuilding infrastructure status. तो उसका जो पूरा माहौल ही है हम लोगों ने बदल दिया
बदला
है। कभी शिप बिल्डिंग इन भारत में कोई ऐसा नहीं सोचता था कि ये मेजर इंडस्ट्री है, ये कोई साइड में कोई बनाते होंगे, शायद कोई जहाज़ बनाते होंगे, लेकिन ये हमारे आर्थिक नीति का एक एकदम सेंट्रल पिलर बन गया है पिछले 2 साल में, मैं कहूँगा।
और शिप बिल्डिंग का सिग्निफिकेंस इकोनॉमिकली क्या है? डू अदर कंट्रीज ऑल्सो सम ऑफ द बिग कंट्रीज फोकस ऑन दैट?
तो आज ये परिस्थिति है कि दुनिया में 60% जो जहाज़ हैं वो सब चाइना में बनती हैं। अब उसके आगे अगर लेंगे तो 20% के करीब जापान में बनती हैं और 15 से 20% के करीब साउथ कोरिया में बनती हैं। बाकी पूरा दुनिया मिला के 5% भी नहीं होगा।
अच्छा।
और हमारा जो शेयर है वो शायद 0.5 से भी कम है, जबकि हमारे पास शिप बिल्डिंग में चैंपियन बनने का हर अवसर है। हमारे पास स्टील है, हमारे पास वर्कर्स हैं, हमारे पास कोस्टलाइन है और हमारी अपनी ज़रूरत है।
जी, इंटरनल डिमांड।
हाँ, अपनी ज़रूरत है। तो ये सब होने के बावजूद और इसके बावजूद कि हमारे पास टेक्नोलॉजी भी है, हम लोग एयरक्राफ्ट कैरियर बनाते हैं, हम लोग न्यूक्लियर सबमरीन बनाते हैं, तो ऑयल टैंकर तो बना ही सकते हैं।
जी, बिल्कुल।
लेकिन हम अब तक कोशिश भी नहीं करते थे। अब पिछले 2 साल में हम लोगों की जो नीतियाँ हैं उनको जिस तरीके से हम लोगों ने बदले हैं, तो उसमें आप देखेंगे कि हमें अपने ऑर्डर्स तो मिल ही रहे हैं, अब दुनिया भर से भी ऑर्डर्स मिलने लगे हैं। तो दिस इज़ अर्ली डेज येट, but I think by the end of this decade we will emerge as a reasonably important shipbuilding hub.
वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग। अच्छा, आपने रिस्क की बात की तो हमने भारत को भी पिछले 10 साल में काफ़ी रिस्क लेते हुए देखा है, एंड इट्स बीन लेड बाय आवर कैप्टन द ऑनरेबल प्राइम मिनिस्टर। तो एज एन इकोनॉमिस्ट जब आप देखते हैं, आपको हाउ डू यू लुक एट सम ऑफ दीज मूव्स दैट द गवर्नमेंट हैज मेड?
So I think there is a willingness to take big risks, and you've seen that repeatedly. So let me tell you about the last 11 years of extraordinary new policies that have been put in place. First of all, some of you will remember, and in fact people now began forgetting, we used to be a high inflation country.
That's true.
Okay, not in an Argentina sort of way, but we used to be a high inflation country in the, we are talking about a 8 to 12% inflation country. Now we are comfortably a 2 to 6% inflation country. That's a 600 basis point reduction in basic underlying base inflation. In fact, right now as we speak, our inflation is below 1%.
That's true.
Some people would argue too low. Now, that required the introduction of an inflation targeting system. Now, introducing that is a deflationary activity. मतलब इकोनॉमी पे दबाव कंटिन्यूसली रहेगा,
वो एक रिस्क है।
वो एक रिस्क है। दूसरा है पूरा जीएसटी सिस्टम। जीएसटी सिस्टम को जो भी हम लोग ऑलमोस्ट 30 साल हम लोग करेंगे,
बट who will tell the cat वाली बात?
क्योंकि जब करेंगे तब जितना डिस्ट्रप्शन हुआ, और हुआ भी, ऐसा नहीं है कि डिस्ट्रप्शन नहीं हुआ, लेकिन अंत में क्या हुआ? So first time it was a free trade agreement India signed with itself. So for all the complaints people have about the GST system, people should remember what the system was that we replaced. हर स्टेट बॉर्डर पे जाके ट्रक्स खड़ी रहती थी, याद है?
बिल्कुल।
और वो सिमिलरली वी इंट्रोड्यूस्ड द इंसॉल्वेंसी एंड बैंक्रप्सी कोड। इसमें क्या हुआ है कि लोग सोचते हैं बैंक्रप्सी खराब चीज़ है। खराब चीज़ नहीं है। अगर आप मार्केट बेस्ड इकोनॉमी चाहते हैं, इनोवेशन चाहते हैं, सबको इनोवेशन चाहिए, सबको रिस्क टेकिंग चाहिए, लेकिन रिस्क टेकिंग का मतलब क्या है कि कभी कभी जिस चीज़ में हम लोग रिस्क टेकिंग कर रहे हैं वो गलत हो जाएगा, खराब होगा, फेल होगा। अगर हम फेल भी नहीं होंगे तो वो रिस्क टेकिंग ही नहीं है।
बिल्कुल।
ठीक है, तो जब वो फेल होगा तो उस एंटरप्राइज या रिस्क को हम क्या करेंगे? तो उसके लिए एक इंसॉल्वेंसी बैंक्रप्सी कोड की ज़रूरत थी, और इसके कारण हम लोगों ने देश के बहुत सारे बड़े बड़े कंपनीज को बैंक्रप्ट किया। वह खराब चीज़ नहीं है, वो अच्छी चीज़ है। लोग सोचते हैं कि बैंक्रप्ट हो जाना खराब चीज़ है, ऐसा नहीं है। किसी भी जीवित चर्निंग इनोवेटिव इकोनॉमी में कुछ लोग बैंकरप्ट होंगे, वो स्वाभाविक है, अच्छी चीज़ है। इसी के आधार पे
आपने कुछ नया करने की कोशिश की का इंडिकेशन है
हाँ,
वो।
इंडिकेशन है वो। तो चूंकि हम लोग पहले इंसॉल्वेंस नहीं होने देते थे, तो क्या होता था, वो जो भी मिस्टेक्स हैं वो अक्यूमुलेट होते रहते थे, उनको साफ करने का कोई सिस्टम नहीं था। तो चूंकि हम लोग साफ करने लगे तो हमारे बैंक्स भी अच्छे हो गए, हमारा क्रिएटिव डिस्ट्रक्शन होने का एक सिस्टम हुआ, और उसके वजह से एक स्टार्टअप का कल्चर भी आया। फिर ड्यूरिंग द कोविड पीरियड दुनिया भर के एक्सपर्ट्स, अमेरिका में बैठे हमारे सब
ज्ञानी
NRI ज्ञानी लोगों ने हम लोगों को बताया कि इंडिया को इस तरीके से चलाना चाहिए। हाँ, तो अगर हम लोग उनके ज्ञान को सुनते तो इस वक्त हमारी इकोनॉमी का वही हाल होता जो ब्रिटेन का हाल है। हमारा इतना डेट बढ़ जाता सिस्टम में कि हम लोग उसको मैनेज ही नहीं कर पाते, और हमारा इन्फ्लेशन अभी ऊपर होता, हमारा इकोनॉमी डाउन होता, और हम लोग इस इंडेटेडनेस को ही मैनेज करने में हमारा हवा निकल जाता।
सर्वाइवल ही का गेम खेल लिया।
हाँ, जबकि आप देखिए अभी क्या परिस्थिति है कि हमारी अभी हम लोग 7% GDP ग्रोथ अभी हमारा नॉर्मलाइज्ड हो गया है,
जी, आदत हो गई
है, और ये हम बिना इन्फ्लेशनरी स्पाइरल के कर रहे हैं। तो ये बहुत बड़ी बात है और इसको कंपाउंड करते जाना है।
जी।
तो ये क्यों कर पाए? क्योंकि हमने जब कोविड हुआ, लॉकडाउन तो दुनिया भर में करना पड़ा, हमको भी करना पड़ा, लेकिन लॉकडाउन के समय एक इतने 140 करोड़ लोगों को मैनेज करना कोई आसान काम नहीं है
जी।
और इस अर्थव्यवस्था को चलाए रखना उस परिस्थिति में कोई आसान काम नहीं है। और जबकि दुनिया भर के लोग आपको ज्ञान दे रहे हैं कि ये करिए, वो करिए, खर्चा करिए। अरे खर्चा कैसे करेंगे? ऐसा नहीं है कि लोग खर्चा नहीं करना चाहते, लेकिन बाजारों को बंद करके रखे हैं।
बिल्कुल।
There's no point in pressing the accelerator when you got your foot on the brake.
That's true.
But it required certain level of courage from the political leadership to be able to manage that. Similarly, अभी हम लोग बहुत सारे नए चीज़ें कर रहे हैं। एक तो है GST को फिर से हम लोगों ने बदला,
जी।
हाँ, सिंप्लीफाई किया। फिर हम लोगों ने इनकम टैक्स 12 लाख के नीचे को हटा दिया। So those earning up to 12 lakhs don't have to pay. So these are a certain kind of risk taking. In each case, when you, for example, simplify the tax system, reduce tax rates, what is the risk you're taking? You're taking the risk that the economy will grow so much that it will compensate for the fact that you have lowered the tax rates. Yes. And therefore our revenues will not collapse. Absolutely. That's also a risk. Yes. When everybody in the world is telling you manage your economy in this particular way, but you're doing it in a different way, you're taking a risk. When you're shutting down some of India's largest companies and bankrupting them, you are taking a risk. Absolutely. So all of this is policy risk taking, and it is only possible because you have a political leadership who is willing to take those risks. And sometimes, even when you do things which I still believe were correct, you have to step back. For example, I personally think those farm law reforms were the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Most farmers in this country actually would benefit from it. But because there was no political consensus on this matter, we withdrew it also. So it's not like every single reform succeeded.
Yes.
Some we had to withdraw. But you can see that what our intention is, our willingness to do those things is there. And now, of course, we are doing hundreds of process reforms, which I am personally involved in. And each one of them requires an effort. And you have to very often do it iteratively because in the first round it does not always work.
Awesome. We've seen, and as a nation, we do appreciate this fact that the Honorable Prime Minister has taken these bold risks. But मैं उनके थोड़े लीडरशिप स्टाइल के बारे में आपसे समझना चाहता हूँ. आप उनके एक की मेंबर हैं उनके टीम के. तो does he empower you to take those risks? Does that risk-taking culture percolate down?
Absolutely. I mean, I simply would not be able to do many of the things I do if I wasn't empowered. I mean,
थोड़ा एग्जाम्पल देके समझाएं हमें.
तो एक जैसे प्रोसेस रिफॉर्म्स हैं जी, हम लोगों ने पेटेंट सिस्टम को पूरी तरह से बदला. अब जब किसी चीज़ को भी बदलेंगे उसमें डिस्ट्रप्शन होगा.
बिल्कुल.
हाँ,
बैकलैश होगा.
डिस्ट्रप्शन तो होगा ही, मतलब आप एक सिस्टम को बदल रहे हैं, तो जब बदलने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं उस टाइम में कुछ देर चलेगा भी नहीं सिस्टम ठीक से। तो हम लोगों ने सिस्टम को बदलना शुरू किया। उसमें अभी नाउ या 500 लोगों को नए हायर भी किया, उनको ट्रेनिंग करना है। तो ये जो पूरी प्रक्रिया को हम लोग बदला, अब पेटेंटिंग सिस्टम मेरे ख्याल से पहले से कहीं ज़्यादा एफिशिएंट है
जी।
लेकिन जब हम बदल रहे हैं तो हमको मालूम नहीं है ना कि वो जो चेंजेस हम लोग कर रहे हैं उससे लाभ होगा कि हानि होगा, हमको मालूम नहीं है।
और रिजल्ट दिखेगा नहीं immediate।
लिखेगा नहीं इमीडिएटली। तो एक मैं उदाहरण दे रहा हूँ। जैसे दूसरा है, हम लोगों ने बहुत सारे ऐसे इंस्टीट्यूशंस को बंद किया जो हमारे ख्यालात थे कि ये आउटडेटेड है। एक मैं उदाहरण देता हूँ, टैरिफ कमीशन।
जी।
इसको 2022 में हमने बंद किया। तो उस समय जब हमने बंद किया, बहुत टैरिफ कमीशन में और दूसरों ब्यूरोक्रेसी में बहुत लोग थे जिनका ये विचार था कि ऐसी एक संस्था की ज़रूरत है, एक यूज़फुल काम करता है। मेरे विचार अलग थे, तो मैंने ये प्रेजेंट किया। बहुत लोगों ने इसका विरोध भी किया सिस्टम में, लेकिन अंत में चूंकि मेरे पास सपोर्ट था तो मैंने इसको किया। और अब ये 3 साल हो गए हैं उसका बंद होने के बाद, कोई हमको दिख नहीं रहा है कि उससे कोई हमें नुकसान कोई हुआ है, दिख नहीं रहा है। तो इसका मतलब क्या है? मतलब ये है कि उस टाइम में हमने रिस्क लिया और उसका हमको लाभ मिला, लेकिन मुझे नहीं मालूम था कि उस समय कि मैं जब ये कर रहा हूँ कि ये मैं सही कर रहा हूँ। मैं 100% कभी भी ये मुझे मालूम नहीं था। तो इस तरीके से हर एक जो में हम रिफॉर्म्स कर रहे हैं,
और आपके ऐसे हर मूव को पूरा सपोर्ट मिलता है।
और देखिए कुछ ऐसे चीज़ें भी हैं जो मेरे नॉर्मल काम के बाहर हैं। जब मैं एक उदाहरण देता हूँ, मैंने कहा कि देखिए हमें एक रिस्क टेकिंग कल्चर को उभर के लाना है और ये दिखाना है कि हमारे इतिहास में हमारे जो पूर्वज थे, हम तो बहुत, किसी भी भारतीय को पूछिए कि हमें बहुत प्राउड है कि एक ज़माने में हम लोग एक ग्रेट सिविलाइजेशन थे, दुनिया के सबसे बड़े इकोनॉमी थे। लेकिन उस ग्रेट सिविलाइजेशन के उन लोगों का जो कल्चर था वो रिस्क टेकिंग कल्चर था। उसको वापस लाने के लिए जो नैरेटिव है उसको फिर से बना के रहना है। तो मैंने एक ऐसे ही आइडिया दिया कि क्यों ना हम लोग गुप्त काल का एक जहाज बनाएं, उस समय के टेक्नोलॉजी से, मतलब लकड़ी से बनाएंगे, उसमें कील का इस्तेमाल नहीं करेंगे, उसको सी के बनाएंगे। तो और उस जहाज को मैं समुद्र में चला के दिखाऊंगा कि ये पॉसिबल है, एक्चुअल पॉसिबल है। मैं किताब में, हिस्ट्री बुक में कितने बार भी लिखूं, विजुअली देखना
एक अलग बात है।
तो मैंने ये आइडिया दिया। अब ये सपोर्ट मिला मुझे प्रधानमंत्री जी से और उसके आधार पे मैंने एक ऐसा शिप बनाया भी है, उसको पानी में डाल के मैंने दिखाया है।
वाह!
अगर ये ओमान से वापस आ गया और हम लोग इस पे सफल हो गए तो 2026 में कार्तिक पूर्णिमा में मेरा आइडिया है कि हम लोग इसको उड़ीसा से बाली ले जाएंगे, बाली यात्रा।
और वो हमारा ट्रेड रूट होता है।
वो पुराना ट्रेड रूट है। तो ये गुजरात से ओमान भी एक पुराना ट्रेड रूट है और उड़ीसा से बाली का भी एक ट्रेड रूट है। दूसरे ट्रेड रूट्स भी थे। मेरा सिर्फ ये उदाहरण के लिए, दिखाने के लिए कि
वो एक मैसेज है।
ये मैसेज है कि हम लोग ऐसे कर सकते थे। और ये जो एक रिस्क टेकिंग जो एक कल्चर है उसको उभर के लाने के लिए ये डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन करने की ज़रूरत है।
और ये सारी चीज़ टॉप डाउन ही आती हैं ये।
हाँ, जैसे हम लोग, एक ज़माना था कि हम लोग जो रिस्क टेकर्स थे, हमारे जो एंटरप्रेन्योर्स थे, उनको अगर आप अभी भी जो काफ़ी सारे जो एनसीईआरटी टेक्स्ट बुक्स हैं, उनको आप टेक्स्ट बुक में पढ़ेंगे तो समझेंगे अच्छा ये होर्डर्स हैं, दे हैव टू बी कंट्रोल्ड, दे हैव टू बी मैनेज। तो आपको लगेगा कि कोई जो बिजनेस कर रहा है वो उसको डीमोनाइज किया जा रहा है। जबकि हमने अभी अब जो नए टेक्स्ट बुक्स आ रहे हैं उसमें उनको हम लोगों ने एक सपोर्ट किया है, दिखाया है कि नो,
ग्लोरीफाई
किया है अच्छे। हाँ, बिकॉज अदरवाइज हाउ डू यू गेट न्यू प्रोडक्ट्स, हाउ डू यू गेट न्यू इनोवेशंस? अगर हम लोग इनको डिमोनाइज करेंगे तो एंटरप्रेन्योर आदमी क्यों बनेगा?
बिल्कुल।
तो ये जो कल्चर है, स्टार्टअप्स का जो कल्चर है, तो ये जो एक नया जो दौर है रिस्क टेकिंग का, और ये मैं तो या बिजनेस में नहीं, हर जगह आप देखिए, स्पोर्ट्स में भी India is not famous for its sporting career. We have never been a great sporting nation, but for the first time you're beginning to see in the last few years we are doing well in certain sports.
Absolutely.
We have begun to win. For example, we won the Thomas Cup in badminton. We have been winning, of course, cricket, we used to even earlier win World Cups, but we have been.
But there's a mindset change.
There's a mindset change. We are doing it in other sports.
Yes.
Just today, I saw we won several boxers won gold medals in the World Championships. So there is a certain change in mindset. If you look at literature,
Yeah.
there was a certain kind of literature till 10 years ago. Wahi upper class people in central Delhi and South Mumbai
Seeking validation.
seeking validation, writing a particular kind of literature. And it's all, you know, there were always all the same kind of literature. And then there was this other class of literature called retired bureaucrats literature. So these were the two basic kinds of literature that you could read in this country. Now look at the explosion. You have people writing like Amish, writing mythology. You have Ashwin Sanghi writing, thrillers. You have historians like Vikram Sampath writing extraordinary new histories, and so on and so forth. And even if you see the movies, आप बॉलीवुड की भी फिल्म देखेंगे, और बॉलीवुड ही नहीं, अब तो पहले हम लोग सिर्फ बॉलीवुड, जो हिंदी भाषी हैं वो तो सिर्फ बॉलीवुड देखते हैं, अब तो साउथ इंडियन फिल्म देखिए, क्या बढ़िया फिल्म्स बनाते हैं ये लोग। कांतारा जैसा इनोवेटिव फिल्म, अनबिलीवेबल कि ये एक नेशन वाइड फिनोमेना होगा, जबकि ये बहुत ही माइक्रो कल्चर के बारे में है, विच इज वेस्ट कर्नाटका के माइक्रो कल्चर का एक दर्शन है, लेकिन इट बिकेम अ नेशनल हिट. And you are seeing all kinds of innovations. That is happening in Hindi, it is happening in Kannada, in Telugu, in many other areas as well. Hopefully one day also in Bengali. But the point is, this is a new culture that is showing through. So for the first time, we are also building new buildings.
Absolutely.
So one of the interesting things is, after independence, we would have thought that, we would go back to building great buildings. But in fact, with the one exception of Vidhan Sauda building in Bangalore, till we built now the Parliament House, Indians did not build any great buildings that I can think of after independence. This is a country that was able to build the Brihadeshwara temple, Taj Mahal, or even the Rashtrapati Bhavan and the entire complex there. We had great buildings. We built great buildings. Foreign rulers who came here built great buildings. But independent India was somehow incapable of building great buildings till very, very recently. As I said, there was one exception, is the Vidhan Sauda building. Yes. And even that, when it was built, by the way, there was a huge controversy around that building of that. It was not that we weren't capable of building it, but the culture was that you resisted building something great. Because we had somehow bought into this idea that we could not do anything great. That we could only build shoddy PWD constructions, cement boxes. Because we had consumed that into ourselves. And the only great building we can aspire to is building Shastri Bhavan. Or, R.K. Puram multi-story building. This was the limits of our imagination. And it is important to understand the extent to which this damaged us.
Absolutely.
So, of course, hundreds of years of foreign conquest damaged us, but we must remember that half a century of socialism also damaged us just as much.
Yes. You spoke about movies and books, so I want to touch upon your latest book, Revolutionaries and the Forgotten Heroes. तो उसको लिखने के पीछे क्या सोच थी?
तो सोच ये है कि जब हम हमारे स्वतंत्रता संग्राम के बारे में पढ़ते हैं, सुनते हैं, जो डोमिनेंट नैरेटिव ये है कि पूरा चीज़ नॉन वायलेंट था और पूरा पोलाइट तरीके से हुआ। ये पूरी तरह से सच नहीं है।
बिल्कुल।
सच ये है कि एक सशस्त्र संग्राम पूरे 200 साल एक आर्म्ड रेवोल्यूशन चलता रहा
जी।
शुरुआत में मराठा साम्राज्य हो या सिख हों या तमिलनाडु के पॉलीगार्ड्स हों, उसके बाद वी हैड द ग्रेट रिवोल्ट ऑफ 1858. After that, you had several other revolts, whether in Manipur or the tribals under Birsa Munda and many others who revolted against the British. So there was continuous armed rebellion against the British throughout the period. And then, of course, in the early 20th century, you had the revolutionaries, led by the Anushilan Samiti, the Hindustan Republican Association and others. And they continuously opposed the British, and ultimately it led to a big rebellion in the British Indian Armed Forces, particularly the Naval Revolt of February 1946. And so people tend not to remember this history, and it is almost, told in passing, if at all. Yes, you will be told about a little bit about 1857, 58, but more likely you know about it not because of your history class, but because in Hindi class you had to learn that poem about Lakshmi Bai.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So this is how the whole, and you will hear maybe Bhagat Singh in passing 2 lines, Netaji passing 2 lines. But if you do not know the
characters,
they are not the central characters. They are almost mentioned as if they were not a part of the story. Yeah. But that is not the entire story. So the reason for writing the book, going back to your original story, is to put the other history there, so that next generation has some perspective of what happened, because there are still people alive who were witness to what happened. So it was important that before they completely die out, this other story is also told.
and we understand the mindset of our ancestors.
Yes.
It was, that risk-taking mindset, that ability to break the mold. And it's also that the trailer is looking absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
So all the best. It's going to come on Amazon. So we are looking forward to that. I want to move to our segment. The segment is called Take 3. I'm going to ask you a question and would seek your response on that. So, what, in your opinion, Sanjeev, are 3 bold economic moves taken by the Honorable Prime Minister, which you think has paved the way for India to become a superpower?
So I think there are many reforms, obviously, but I think one of the things was, I think, the whole culture, as I said, of changing the national narrative where risk-taking in various fields is celebrated. So obviously, there is, I talked about entrepreneurship and creative destruction and so on, but you see that in other spaces as well. Whether it's going into space, for example. The entire space program has been completely rejuvenated as a result of the efforts of the Honorable Prime Minister. And note here, he recognizes that failure is a part of risk-taking. So if you remember, when you had the failed missions as well, it is not that the Honorable Prime Minister,
was right by their side.
He was right there, and that is also true if you remember when we lost in some sports events.
Absolutely.
You will see that he still phones up
Yes.
and congratulates the team even when they lose in the finals of something.
Yeah,
So it is something, it shows, it requires a certain leadership. So I would say the first thing is done is change this attitude that we can do it, and that attempting to do it means that sometimes you will fail.
Absolutely.
And this has been true of all spheres of human endeavor where you're seeing this culture change. So whether it's, for the first time we are building sort of more grand buildings, I mean a new parliament, whether you think we could have done a better job or not, we can argue about it. But the fact is the sheer vision of creating a new parliament. So people get debating about whether the new design is good or not. But what about the sheer willingness to go out there and build something like that? That I think is the real change that I would argue. So this is one big area. The second big area is to be willing to position India as a great power and to change our thinking that we can be a great power. Earlier on, to the extent we wanted to do something in the world, we would maybe not do it as a great power, but as a union leader of the non-aligned movement or something like that. So basically, not in our own right.
Yeah.
We have now begun to think of ourselves as an emerging power. That is a change.
Yeah.
And that shows through in the way we are willing to stand up to international pressure in all kinds of ways. That doesn't mean that we are necessarily going to be disruptive, but we stand up for India's rights. And you have seen that in this current Trump tariff episode.
Absolutely.
We have not in any way escalated anything, but we have also stood by India's interests.
Absolutely.
So that is, I would say, the second very important thing. The third thing that I would argue is that he has opened up the gates to new parts of society. So whether it's the youth or the Northeast or women and so on, and sort of opened up the gates to allow them to do new things and to participate in the national narrative. But that doesn't mean that he and his team are not willing to step back against those who get in, kind of try to stop the emergence of India. I mean, whether he's quite strong against the Naxalites, for example.
Yes.
But at the same time, those who are willing to come to the mainstream and participate in national life and make positive contributions, the gates are open. So for the first time, the Northeast is about as peaceful as I remember it. There are large parts of central India which are Naxalite prone, which, now Naxalism is a fading memory.
Yes.
And now you're beginning to see parts of India that are not been as important as a part of the national conversation, like the Northeast, but also, suddenly people are going for holidays to, places like Arunachal or Lakshadweep and so on. So they have become a part of the national conversation. Andaman and Nicobar Islands, they're a part of the national conversation. And I think that is quite an important change that the Honorable Prime Minister has also brought.
So now, Sanjeev, it's time for some young audience questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
I would like to know that for students who want to contribute in policy and governments, what is the best way to enter this space?
So there are many ways of participating in policy making. I'll mention a few. There might be others. One is obviously you excel in a particular field, and then become well known in it, build a brand in that space, and then you write about it in public spaces and basically become a part of that conversation. Then as you become well established, the government itself will, whether it's central government, state government, or whatever be the body, will incorporate you in some fashion into a committee, or even ask you to join the government, like in my case, to become a part of the government. So that is one route, one pathway. The second is either you join the bureaucracy or take up public life as a politician. That is another route of becoming a part of the global conversation, the conversation on policy. So that is, but there are many other ways. You can join a think tank or become an academic and specialize in a particular field. But frankly, we are a democracy. Everybody is a part of policy making. So take up an issue that you feel passionately about. You don't have to have a job doing it. You can take up, I do many things which have nothing to do with my normal job. My normal job is actually writing economic policy. I write my own history books and I write fiction as well. I'm currently working on a Amazon Prime series. So, if you want to do it, you will find the time to do it. So there is no excuse here, I'm afraid. The opportunities available today are a different level of magnitude from what was available to my generation, which in turn was another level of magnitude up from what was available to my parents' generation.
That's true.
So the resources available, the safety nets that you now have because we are simply a wealthier country, the kinds of resources and exposure you have because of internet and other things. This is simply a different level. So go out there and do things that are outside your comfort zone. But frankly, you can do multiple things. Do them one at a time as you build it up. But to state that, I couldn't do it because there are always excuses why you cannot do it.
Great.
Hello, sir. I would like to ask you a question that as young Indians looking at the world today, what advantage do you think that our generation has that the earlier generations did not?
In a way, you've answered it.
I think I've answered this question earlier. Basically, the advantages are this. The economy that you are a part of is a rapidly growing and significantly wealthier and well-resourced economy than used to be the case. You also are growing up in an environment where the internet is there, and whether it's artificial intelligence or all the free tools you have is simply mind-boggling. Even your smartphone can do things that would require a professional years of experience earlier to be able to do. So, in many ways, the world is much more fluid. And you are a part of a rising country, a rising economy. So go out there and take advantage of it.
This is the last one.
Hello, sir. My name is Prince Vishnoi, and I would like to ask you that since you have moved across economies, policy writing, and even urban design, how should students think about these type of careers in a rapidly changing world?
So I am a big believer of getting rid of silos from inside people's head. I don't see any great blockage between going from economics to urban design to history. It's a matter of how much effort you're willing to put in. Don't worry about the silos. Those are there because it's convenient for teaching purposes. That is not how the world actually functions. The world functions without silos. So the silos in your head are cobwebs that you need to clear. And so do what you think you find interesting, you feel passionate about, and go and do it. And yes, much of those attempts that you do will fail. That is perfectly fine. Nothing teaches you faster than a burnt finger.
Now we come to the rapid fire. What is the boldest decision that you've taken that looked reckless to others but felt inevitable to you?
I think when I was about 37, I one day got up. I had a very well-paying job in Deutsche Bank at that time. I was doing very, very well, very successful. But I got up one fine morning when I was about 37. This is the year 2008. And I decided to simply resign and take my young family and move back to India to go traveling around. There was no particular reason to do it, but that I just wanted to do it. And The Land of Seven Rivers, the book, is a result of those travels around India with my children. They thoroughly enjoyed it. Maybe they didn't attend all the classes that they could have, but I think they came away with an education they could not have otherwise had.
Awesome. A writing ritual that would surprise people.
Well, the first thing is that I don't have any rituals at all. I do remember that I do have a full-time profession, which means that all my and I'm writing all the time, but much of what I'm writing are government reports, notes, presentations, and so on. So, much of it doesn't see light of day, or if it sees light of day, it doesn't come under my name. It's the Economic Survey or something like that. So, the writings that you're talking about, I'm presuming, is the my books,
Yes, absolutely.
and my articles and so on. And those are very often written where I can, on a flight or sitting somewhere. I'm stuck somewhere because of some reason in a hotel room somewhere. And so I have not had any ritual at all. I do it when I can.
One habit that has genuinely compounded your success.
I don't know what habits I have. I'm a very unstructured person, but I do perhaps the thing that I do enjoy doing regularly would be I do like doing some sort of form of exercise almost every day.
Okay.
Even if it's going for a longish walk or something. But when I can, I either play a sport or I go to the gym or I have an akhada at home. So I use that. Yeah, like turning the mudgar or the gada or something. I do that as well. So depending what I can, but I do some form of hard physical labor almost 5-6 days a week.
This one is from the entire team. A song that instantly gets you your best dance moves.
Difficult to tell. I think it's not so much a song. It would be the Durga Puja Dhak. I am a hardcore Bengali at heart, so.
And we just loved your dance moves, which went viral. We loved them as, we felt your economic moves and your dance moves, they give each other competition. So that was fantastic.
Thank you.
One historical figure you'd like to take out for coffee.
Very difficult to tell. Choosing one, but I would definitely, if I could, I would like to meet definitely maybe Vishnugupta Kautilya or Shivaji could be another interesting person. Vivekanand,
Hmm.
but there could be so many.
Hard to choose.
Has to choose.
If India had to remember you with one quirky footnote, what would you want it to be?
I don't know. I have no idea. That is for others to choose, frankly. I don't think these things, none of these are quirky. People think I do a lot of quirky things. I don't think they're quirky. They make sense to me.
Very, very insightful. I want to end this podcast with a message for the young Indians. 3 things that the young Indians can do to be successful, prosperous, and in the process make Bharat a Viksit Bharat.
So I would, as I said, since the whole talk was about risk taking, my thing is that there are many levels of risk taking that you can do. But it does require you to get up from your comfort zone and do things.
Yes.
So whether it is, and I'm a big advocate of starting families early. So go out there, start a family. Then demographics and the next generation is an important thing. Just like we have brought you up, you have to bring the next generation up. So start a family early.
Yeah.
Take whatever it is that you want to do it early. It is better to try it out and fail than to wonder if only I had done it.
Beautiful.
Okay. And the third thing is proud to be Indian. This is important. We are a great civilization. We have been around for a long time. Civilization was there before the Greeks and the Romans. We are still here after the British Empire has disappeared. There is something really, there is a certain resilience in our civilization that is to be celebrated. Celebrate it. This doesn't mean that you have to be close-minded and jingoistic, but celebrating Indianness in whatever form you have. I mean, Indianness shows through in a totally different way in Sikkim and in Goa and in Punjab or in Bengal. But they're all Indiannesses of different kinds. Celebrate it, be proud of it.
Sanjeev, this conversation was an eye-opener in every sense of the word. Thank you for the wisdom. Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you very much.